Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another character spotlight type video. Want to give my thoughts on some of my favorite characters in all of fiction, be it any kind of media, comic books, movies, regular novels, whatever the case may be. And my favorite all-time character, I would have to say, is none other than Batman. Alright, so out of all the character spotlight type videos I've done, sort of tribute, so to speak, where I give my thoughts on some really important characters in fiction, I've never done one on Batman. And I've done a top 10 list and counted down my top 10 favorite comic book characters of all time, and heroes, villains. I kind of separated it up. And for the hero side, definitely Batman is my favorite hero there is, and my favorite character overall. Now, this is a difficult one to do because there are so many different versions of the character since his creation in 1939 by Bob Kane, that the way you think of Batman, the way I think of Batman, and everybody else does, it differs from person to person, depending on what exactly they've been exposed to, which version is their favorite, and which version they think of as like their Batman, so to speak. For some people, it could be the comic book version is the version they think of the most, like the recent, I would say, like, the recent last, maybe since The Dark Knight Returns, probably, the darker type, newer Batman that is in the comic books, most people would probably think of. But then for a lot of others, it could be the movies, or it could be the cartoon series, or it could be, because there's always new Batman stuff coming out. Like even right now, last year there was Beware the Batman. I think that's still running. Of course, there was the Christian Bale Dark Knight, well, Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale Dark Knight trilogy. Obviously, the new one's starting soon with Batman and Superman as Ben Affleck as Batman. So there's so many different versions. It's difficult for me to kind of just do a character spotlight and talk about the character, because if I talk about, for example, the 60s Batman, like, your Adam West type Batman, that's a totally different character from, well, not totally different, but very different from the modern Batman, or the, Dark Knight Returns Batman, or all the different types of versions that have been out there and have been released. It's crazy. So my idea of Batman, the way I think of him, is mostly influenced by the comic books as well as Batman the Animated Series, which I grew up with, which is kind of, a lot of times when I think about Batman, that's the version I think of, the Bruce Timm style of animation that we got to see back in the 90s for Batman. Then, of course, you kind of have a little bit of the Dark Knight trilogy mixed in there, and Michael Keaton's, and, there's so many different versions. My idea of who the character is, if I just think about just the character himself, it's difficult to pinpoint because there's so many different ones. But like I said, for me, my version would probably be a mixture between the movies, the comic books, and the cartoon series, with the heaviest influence being the cartoon series, because I grew up with those. Back then I didn't have any money to buy comic books. My parents wouldn't bring me to the comic book store, so I had to watch the cartoons if I wanted to be exposed, or if I wanted to check out comic book characters, which I love so much, superheroes, including him. So that's kind of the way I think of Batman, is that, darker type of character, more modern age, not the old cartoonish Adam West version, that kind of thing. That's its own thing, or the Brave and the Bold cartoon series version. Oh man, there's so many different versions, it's hard. But basically, that's the way I think of Batman. That's my version, the way I think of the character. So why do I say he's my favorite character overall? Like, period, overall, my favorite, number one. Well, I think he's the character that has the most, I want to say, kind of like stories created for him. So I would say he's probably the character that has the most comic books created with him as, such a front main type character. His own, of course, comic book series, all of the movies. He's got so many superhero movies now, because there was, the Adam West Batman movie, and then of course the Michael Keaton's, the other two with Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, and then the Dark Knight trilogy, and then the new one, and oh man, it's just the amount of content out there on the character is ridiculous. He has more content out there than anyone else I can think of. The only others I could think of that could probably rival him in terms of comic book characters would be like Superman, Spider-Man maybe, and that's about it. I mean, the Avengers recently, but 20 years ago, no. 10 years ago, no. So it's, man, he's got so much of a history in the character. I mean, there's so many different versions, so many different releases. It's like DC's always releasing new stuff for the character constantly. So obviously, if he wasn't popular, if he didn't appeal to people, they wouldn't have created so much over the years for him that you can literally go through probably for like, if you wanted to read through everything, if you wanted to watch everything that he's in, it'd probably take you 2 to 3 years and all your spare time to just sit there and go through and read every issue. And, it would take forever because that's how much content has been created about the character. The reason why he's my favorite, I would have to say, is I like the way Batman is a hero, but at the same time, he's such a damaged, dark figure. He's such a damaged, dark character where I really like the sort of philosophy they play on in The Dark Knight Returns. I think that's probably some of the best Batman stuff there is out there, where there's kind of a focus in that on which version or who is the sole identity and which one is the alter ego, or sort of like the sub. Because you know how if you have alter egos, for example, if you had 2 different identities where you live life as 2 different people. One time you're Batman, another time you're Bruce Wayne. Which side is stronger? Which side pulls more? And in The Dark Knight Returns, it's pretty well established, and I think this makes a lot of sense, that the actual identity or the actual character ever since the death of his parents is Batman. Bruce Wayne is sort of like this facade, this face that he puts on for people to see, and is kind of like just what remains of the man after, or what remains of him as a person after what happened to him, of course, at a young age. And the character himself, or the superhero, if you will, however you want to refer to Batman, is actually the real representation. So that's like the core identity, and the other is more like an alter ego versus the opposite. Versus with most, you have Peter Parker, and then of course you have Spider-Man. But primarily his life is Peter Parker. With Batman, I'd have to say it's the opposite. Primarily he's Batman, and his alter ego is Bruce Wayne. So I really love that kind of philosophical way of looking at the character and seeing which identity is stronger here, and which one really does this being live for? Which one is he really more towards? And like I said, in The Dark Knight Returns, it's really cool how he tries to stop being Batman, and he realizes that's really who he is. Bruce Wayne is not really who he is, but this alter ego has taken over and has filled that void that he's lost since the death of his parents at a very young age. So I think that's pretty profound. That's pretty amazing. And like I said earlier, another thing about it is because he's the hero, but yet he's so dark too. Like he's dark. Like it's a nice role reversal between usually the good guy you think of as bright, shining, positive attitude, happy-go-lucky, really like Superman kind of the light shining. You see him flying. This kind of thing is where you think of like a good guy. The opposite for his arch nemesis or the villain would be darker. Brooding, evil, in the shadows, doesn't go out in the light, this kind of thing. With Batman and his, obviously, his arch nemesis, the Joker, it's the opposite. It's a total reversal, where you have the Joker who's so happy, he's so positive, smiling ear to ear, and dressed all colorful, and he's going around blasting people's heads off. Or depending on which version of the Joker, cutting people's faces into smileys or whatever you want to, gassing people, whichever version you prefer. And then the opposite is true for Batman. He's the hero, but yet he's so dark, he's so negative, he's so depressed, he's so full of hatred and anger and all these things. And I really find that fascinating. I think that's a lot of fun. In addition to that, I mean, he has like a huge roster of villains. He probably has more known villains than any other comic book character. I'll compare him to, for example, Superman. Superman's got lots, like Brainiac and Doomsday and Lex and, all these different villains. But most people just know a couple. With Batman, most people know his whole rogues gallery for the most part. People know Robin. They know all Alfred, all the supporting characters that go along with him are sort of out there in sort of pop culture in the world. People know. If you asked any person walking down the street, I'd say 90% chance they would know who Catwoman is. They know the Joker. They know all these different characters. If you start asking people if they know Brainiac or they know, all these different Superman villains, I would almost guarantee you they're going to start looking at you within a minute or two saying, no, I have no idea who that is. And I think that kind of shows how well developed the character's own universe is when people are aware in pop culture everywhere, basically, of all these different, characters that are part of his world, part of Gotham City. Even the city itself is probably the most famous superhero location there is. I'd say more famous than Metropolis or, any of those. Marvel uses real, cities, but make-believe, like fantasy type places, I think Gotham City might be the most well-known, fantasy city there is, in fiction. So so that's what I like about the character so much and why I think he's so much fun, so interesting. Aside from that, of course, he just kicks a lot of ass. He beats the crap out of villains. He won't kill, but he'll beat them to a pulp. And depending on which one you read, again, sometimes he'll beat them worse than others, to the point where he'll, Dark Knight Returns, there's parts when he'll paralyze a guy or whatever the kid, he's young, he'll walk again, there's all these, almost, this kind of thing, he'll just go full tilt and, with reckless abandon, basically. So those are kind of my thoughts on the character. I guess I'll end with talking about some of my favorite different types of things to check out for Batman the character. If you haven't seen, I would say The Dark Knight Returns, to me, the animated movies, because I love seeing things visually animated out, or the comic books if you want to read the books or you want to watch the two-part direct-to-DVD releases. I think that's probably the best. Gives you the best understanding of the character of anything out there on the market. In addition to that, it's freaking awesome. You have the Joker, and it's really honest to who the characters are. He's a mass murderer. A party goes around, and he's committing, like, he goes through this carnival, and he's just laying people out. It's not like the cartoon series where he's giving everybody smileys or whatever because they can't kill anybody on Saturday morning cartoons. Dark Knight Returns, he's running around just blasting people at a carnival. They're on dates and stuff, like boyfriend, girlfriend, just walking through. And it really is like an honest interpretation of who these characters are, with the psychology, the philosophical elements mixed in as well, too. And so that, for me, is probably my favorite anything that's ever been released for Batman. In addition to that, the animated series, of course, is really good. It's great as well. So you can check that out anytime. New Adventures or animated series. He's got some great stuff in the Justice League cartoon as well, too. The Batman comic books, like I said, Dark Knight Returns, there's so many trades out there you can pick up. You really can't go wrong. Probably the best thing to do if you're looking to buy some Batman comics would be just see what's in stock at your local comic book shop. Or bookstore, or whatever the case may be, or to do some research online. I'm sure there's websites that list out like top 50 best Batman graphic novels. You can go through and grab some of them because they're constantly coming out with new ones, and some of them are really good, even the newer ones. Of course, the Dark Knight trilogy is pretty amazing if you have the time. If you haven't seen it, Dark Knight, probably the best live action movie version of Batman. And I do like the the 90s Michael Keaton stuff. Batman and Robin's okay. Batman Forever's okay. Batman and Robin's an atrocity. Well, I still find some things that are fun about it. And anything else too, you can get your hands on. I'd say the direct-to-DVD animated movies of Batman are great. The older stuff, Batman the Brave and the Bold, kind of like a lighter version. Some people might like that more. I like more of a darker, brooding type Batman. So that's about 14 minutes going on. I figure it probably doesn't make sense for me to talk about the details of the character because everyone knows them. Should I really go through his biography? No. We all know, so I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts and do a character spotlight on it. I'm thinking about, I'll probably create a playlist with all my character spotlights because I'm going to spread out and do some more. I was just doing them for The Walking Dead before. And I think, does it make more sense for me to do character spotlights on characters that are, famous, this kind of thing, like huge characters in pop culture? or does it make sense for me to do character spotlights for just, I'm probably going to do both and mix in what I can do. So if you guys have any suggestions for other character spotlights, I mean, there's lots I could do. If you enjoy them, let me know. Send me a private message. Mostly comic book, type stuff is what I enjoy the most, superhero type stuff. So let me know what you guys think about it. Let me know what your thoughts are on Batman, what you like most about the character. If you actually dislike the character, let me know, although I find almost nobody dislikes Batman. It'd be kind of weird if you did, but if you did, that's fine. Write in the comments below. And PM me if you want to see other character spotlights on other comic book characters. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say for this one. My favorite character of all time, the MFing Batman. Whatever. It didn't sound as epic as I thought it was going to. Anyway, I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Jeff saying peace.